Welcome to another edition of Cambridge Inside Out. My name's Robert Winters.
And I'm Judy, Nathans, whatever.
Judy.
Yeah,
I'm Robert,
Judy, yeah.
Robbie.
No,
Bob.
you told me your nickname
Right.
once, and I forget what it
When
was.
I was in high school,
Yeah.
everybody called me Rabbit.
Rabbit, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my old New York friends still do.
That's cute. All
So
right.
Today is November 22nd.
Yes.
An infamous date for those
Oh,
of us
right.
who were around
I know.
in 1963.
I didn't think of that until I saw an old Facebook keeps reminding you of the memories that you posted.
2016. And let's see, I guess there's a fair amount of things. It's funny when I was preparing for the show last week, and I started putting things together. There was just too much.
Yes.
There's federal level stuff, local
right, 'cause
stuff,
the
state
elections,
stuff.
right.
It was tons. So we have some of the.
Can I just briefly ask you, where were you on November 22nd, 1963?
I was in.
younger
It's funny because everybody remembers who was around.
How can you?
How
do you
can you
remember
not?
where you were in 9/11? Do you remember where you were when
I do.
Trump
I do.
was elected?
And I certainly remember I was in Mrs. Moss's third grade
You were
class.
third grade.
Yeah, and Mrs. Robinson, Gary's mom, came into class and to break the news to
Mrs.
everybody.
Robinson came in?
Yeah, Mrs. Robinson, yeah. And I think that if I remember correctly, we may have actually been let out of school early that day. Is there
Yeah, because it happened it was Texas time, like at 1 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock. It was
Yeah.
right near the end of school, you're right.
Yeah. So it was interesting. I still remember walking back home with my brother Ed, and he said some.
Was he older? He picked
He's
you
1
up?
year older,
Yeah.
and he said, now that he used an expletive, which is the first time I heard it, but I'm not going to repeat it on TV.
What?
He says that so-and-so Johnson's going to be president now.
Wow.
And I went, wow, what an interesting curse word. That was what struck me. So anyway.
I was in high school. I'm a little older than you. In a concert, and our teacher, the choir, he took advantage of the moment and made us sing something, and none of us could. We all sat down on the stage because we were crying.
Yeah.
I hated him forever for that because he took advantage of this moment.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that. Yeah.
And then we were all glued to the TV.
Yeah. So let's see. So back here,
Now we're
back in
2016, November 22nd.
time, racing forward. A bunch of things going on, sort of stuff around town. One thing I think I just happened to notice, the press release came, maybe it was yesterday. It was that we're actually, yet again, I think, is this the third or is it fourth participatory budgeting
Doesn't it say right there?
process. Might say it actually in the.
I think it's the third.
Maybe the third.
Fourth, that sounds
I think
a
the
little-
first one, the city set aside, again, for those who don't know it.
Yeah.
Participatory budgeting is a process where people from the city, but there was actually also city staff, which I think is a little strange, come up with ideas for items, capital, that may be included in the capital budget. In other words, things that have to be covered. Typically, one-offs, one-time non-recurring capital item that people just happen to like. So it's not something that bubbled up through a city process as much as it was from,
But
citizens.
there are groups that lobby for certain things, though.
Yeah, and
then they
sometimes
get their
lobby
people
hard.
to- yeah.
Yeah, and so it's a little bit kind of a, pull out your people and get
Yeah.
your money kind of aspect to it.
It
But,
also says that's.
well, anyway, let's just sort of show you, because it's the
Yeah.
third one, and I think if this all works here, we'll
Yeah,
actually
just
be able
slide.
to take a look at it
There
here.
you go.
So just for this year's round, the voting period is actually coming up in early December, between the 3rd and the 9th of December. And there are 20 fundable items from which you can choose.
Isn't that more than usual?
I don't remember what the total
Seems like a
has
lot.
been in the past, but I remember the first year they set aside about $500,000 in the budget for participatory budgeting. And they ended up spending maybe about $550 because they couldn't, rather than just eliminate things, they decided to just increase it a little bit. And they upped it to $600,000 for the second year, and now it's at $700,000 to be
Can you
split.
repeat some that didn't make it in the last round? Because
Yeah.
some look familiar,
Some
but maybe
look
not.
familiar.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that some of these ones are repeats.
Yeah.
That didn't, maybe got some support, but not quite
Hydration
enough.
stations.
One thing I did notice, and I'm not in any way going to offer a theory about it, but in almost, I think in both of the previous years, there were 3 or 4 bicycle infrastructure related items.
Yes.
This year, arguably, there really aren't any. There's
Because
it says-
everything else is going to be done.
Yeah, it says building a strong and safe bike community, but that's primarily things like bicycle helmets and
Oh,
educational things
okay.
and whatever. So
Bicycle desks for Cambridge students.
right.
I'm not
so
sure
it's
what
more
that
like
means.
promoting cycling, but
What
it's
is a
not
bicycle
actually.
desk? They
I
don't have
actually-
a treadmill desk.
I don't
do they?
actually know. It didn't quite appeal to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's coming up, and for those
Yeah.
who've participated in the past, you might want to participate again. It's really a wide open process. All you have to be is 12 years old or greater. You don't
And
even
you don't have to be a U.S.
you
citizen.
don't have to be a citizen. Just have to be somebody who's sort of part of the.
But I think you have to live here, don't you? They'll
I
probably
hope
ask you
so.
where you live.
Yeah.
All right, and then you just
Right.
go online and vote, or you can go in person.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
libraries
So
and
anyway,
things.
that's coming up real soon.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention that
Starts
straight away.
next week.
It's when we first started doing it here, I actually stayed away from it. I voted to be sure in both of them, got my sticker and all
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that.
but you stayed away from
I didn't
deciding
want-
what to get.
Yeah, and I probably have said this on the program before. I did it because there were, my theory was there were some people who were, you and I, we got into civic stuff, well, in a variety of ways, really.
Yeah, mainly
But
for me, the waste reduction and
waste reduction, recycling.
Yeah.
So it was sort of
Well,
more
Women's
of a,
Commission before that, but yeah.
Yeah, but we were more kind of the constructive view of civic participation, like let's accomplish something
Yeah.
as opposed to let's oppose something.
Ah, interesting,
And-
didn't think of
and
it that way.
I've kind of looked at a lot of
Yeah.
my sort of civics eye view has
Yeah.
often been that, well, you've got your blockers and you've got your constructors.
Yeah.
Now sometimes you should block something that's terrible, right?
Well,
And sometimes you should
very fitting right now, but
Right,
still,
potentially.
you could block something by proposing something more positive.
Yeah, but like on the civic front, so
Yeah.
if I thought recycling was a good idea, I wanted to be
Yeah.
involved in making it
Yeah.
happen.
So how does this
Right?
not fit that?
Well, to say,
Oh.
I was kind of hoping that some
Yeah.
of the people who had no experience in actually doing something,
Yeah.
growing something, but were more involved in blocking stuff, would actually get drawn into this, and they might like it. They might say, hey, yeah, this is good. Let's make good things happen. And that might be kind of a good civic exercise
I
for
bet
some
that
people.
didn't happen.
Actually,
It did? Yeah.
with some it did, actually.
All right.
So I saw some people who were previously more of the,
But maybe
native
what
crowd.
it said they got 548 ideas. There's only 20 here, so maybe their stuff didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't been part of that, but
Yeah.
those are the people who they kind of vet all the projects. I think so some city staff say, well, that's just an impossibility, or that's not even
Oh, yeah,
legal.
60 volunteer budget delegates. Okay.
If there was a participatory budget item that said, please give $100,000 to
Right.
Robert Winters.
Right. I think they threw that
they
one
might just
out.
throw
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that one out, right? See? So there are certain things for whatever reasons should not be part of participatory budgeting. And then there are other things that are just completely infeasible, or some things that are already in the capital budget, in which case, well, why do it that way, right?
Right. Well, I think last time you questioned like the chairs for CRLS. Why is that something
Yeah.
that has to be, is
Something-
that coming out of a school
Yeah,
budget or what?
Yeah, I don't like this idea that there are certain
taking
things
the
that
city-
there really should be part of regular city budgeting,
Right.
As opposed to participatory budgeting.
Right. Although maybe it's just extras they can't really justify spending unless people want it.
Maybe,
know?
yeah. I mean, I don't want to see a process like this turn into one where.
I mean, safer
city-
crosswalks for busy roads, that sounds like something the traffic department.
But if it wasn't already in the capital plan, but somebody said, we
Right.
really want this. And
Okay,
so let's try it
that's all I'm
this
saying.
way.
So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I think, I'm not 100% sure
Yeah.
about this, but I believe there are some items that kind of went through the process, but
Yeah.
didn't quite make the cut in the final vote.
Yeah.
Which the city actually said, but that's a good idea, and they have kind of drifted their way into capital
Oh, okay, so
planning.
maybe it'll happen. Okay, I
So
get
some
you.
things
All right.
some things may happen
Sure.
anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's coming up,
Yep.
3rd through the 9th. I think we should be
Great.
aware of that.
Yeah.
One thing, may as well just do some of these in sequential order
Yeah.
here. In response to what happened at the federal level, there were suggestions made during the presidential campaign by a certain orange emperor to be.
Demagogue, emperor, boy king. Great article today in the Globe calling him a boy king.
I didn't
'cause-
say it though.
Yeah.
But basically suggesting that any city that had declared itself to be a sanctuary city,
Put on
at one
notice.
point, we're put on notice that they were going to have all their federal funding was going to be
Right.
cut off, and
Not all
or
of it, some
I think
of it.
that I don't know whether Trump himself or some of the other people. I actually saw some person I know who I'm just not even talking to anymore. who said, well, we ought to be sending federal troops to Somerville if they're not going to enforce federal law.
What?
And I thought,
someone you know?
Somebody I know,
That lives sort of near here?
Somebody who was a Facebook friend of mine, and, who I followed on Twitter until a week ago.
So they're not local.
He was.
All right, well, let's look like beyond that. But in other words, it's everywhere.
Right. So just, now feeling this sense of like, well, now we're going to be in charge. Right. So let's go sending the troops into Somerville.
Where's our guns?
Bust some heads here. And that's kind of nutty. But anyway, the notion, I think the more serious civic concern is if there's, Cambridge, like every other place, and maybe more so.
Yeah.
We've always been pretty good at grant applications and trying to creatively, get federal funds to support housing programs, school programs, whatever. And some of these things do come with strings attached, apparently. And so there is this notion that, well, how much money might we lose? I heard
6 million?
I heard Somerville said 6. I've heard estimates from 6.
Oh, by city or I thought it was maybe it was.
It's
I don't
by
know.
city. So
6 million is ringing in my
Joe
ears.
Curtitone, mayor of Somerville, today put the number at about 6 for Somerville. If Somerville's getting 6 million from federal funds, I'll bet you Cambridge is getting more.
At least. Yeah, that's the figure I've heard though, 6 million.
Yeah, but I don't know whether they're including everything.
They may rely on them more than Cambridge does because they're not Cambridge.
Yeah, so a lot of towns, cities and towns are across the country really, sanctuary cities are issuing statements, saying we are not going to bend on our
cities too, Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, so they potentially could lose a tremendous amount of money if in fact the federal government actually followed through. I'm not so sure they will. Only because
it's how are they going to? They're going to have enough to deal with right now. I hope.
That's kind of what I figure. But there was in addition to let's see.
Where do you have here?
I'm very bad at manipulating these things.
Okay, here's the statement. Yeah.
So there was our mayor Denise Simmons and city manager Louis DePasquale issued a joint statement. I might as well just sort of scoot over to it right here.
Yeah.
Just the other day, just regarding Cambridge as a sanctuary city. Now, maybe it's not worth getting into all the particulars about it, but, basically reaffirming that, things like, the basic things like Cambridge local police are not going to be out knocking on doors.
Yeah, I think that was the main thing. We're not going to use our resource or our police force to enforce this policy that we.
Yeah, and when I was writing up about this, because there were several items on the city council agenda yesterday that were addressing this, and next week's roundtable meeting that was supposed to be
changed to sanctuary?
It was supposed to be originally to discuss pre-K educational matters, and it's been now switched.
Oh, it has been. Okay.
To talking about the Cambridge's status as a sanctuary city.
Okay.
Now, some years ago, I just had the bright idea of grabbing the text. I actually went to the city clerk's office and got the original text for sanctuary city order.
Okay, which was what, 1985?
From 1985 in April. And I, scanned it, put it up on the web. And I have to say, over the years, it's actually been one of the more popular, when you look at the web statistics, one of the more popular downloads.
From your site?
So I think other places actually got the language because you Google sanctuary city and people would find it there.
Great.
So that's actually been, some of the ideas or language I'm sure got lifted and used in other cities.
What is this thing they mentioned? The full text of the Cambridge Police Department's secure communities and ICE detainers policy is available at.
Right.
What's that? Have you seen that?
When the sanctuary city resolution original one was passed, and actually I even have a link on here. We can even look at it if you wanted to. But
is it there?
No, it's down with the ones having to do with the city council related.
Oh yeah, you'd have to go to publications.
Yeah, but the thing is that the original order. From 1985 was really in response to things that were happening primarily in Central America. And
this is related to
basically
14.
we were saying there were some churches and other community organizations that were providing actual sanctuary for people who were refugees, but they were not necessarily here legally, but they didn't want them harassed. And so basically it was a hands-off policy that says city officials are not going to bust anybody's chops about this. They're not going to go after the organizations that are harboring people. And in fact, there were even statements of encouragement for others to do the same. So That was updated. I heard today, somebody said 1999, but the last I saw was a 2006 resolution, which was a kind of a redo.
Okay.
But that one was actually more a statement of basically of opposition to what was working its way through the United States Congress at the time, to say we don't agree with this, So anyway, so we have a bit of a tradition with this. So, Cambridge, like Somerville, like a lot of other places, I think New York, all of New York State, Governor Cuomo made a pretty bold statement about that. Pretty much, saying, hold on, we're not going to be cooperative. Now, you could interpret this as saying that are you basically flipping the bird at the federal government?
No, they're just saying we're not going to do your work.
I think some people, though, are putting an intonation into it, like as if they are flipping the bird at the federal government. But if you actually look at the language of the ordinance, not the ordinance, it's not an ordinance, it's a statement, really. Yeah. The policy that Cambridge passed back in 1985, it's actually pretty benign. When you really look at it, all it basically says is, that if federal officials want to come in, knocking on doors, pulling people out of their homes, they can do that, and we're not going to stop them.
It's their responsibility of the federal government, and the Cambridge Police Department does not undertake immigration-related investigations.
Right. So I threw a parallel, and I said, when I wrote up about the meeting item at the city council for Monday, sort of like, well, what's so crazy about Cambridge saying we're not going to do the work of the federal government any more than they're collecting unpaid parking tickets.
Right.
Right?
Right.
For us,
so that was good.
right?
Yeah.
So we do our job, you do your job. If somebody's actually involved in actual criminal activity and then they want to come after, sure, the police department.
But it doesn't say though. Let's in the worst case scenario, the federal. I don't know. Is the federal government like the FBI? I don't know. Who would they send in? Say they go send in. Would we have to cooperate with them?
Well, immigration officials would come in. But I mean, if the immigration officials were to just sort of knock on the door of the Cambridge Police Department and say, here's your orders, you must go do this, you must turn over this.
No, they wouldn't do that. But what if they go knock on the door of the person that they want to deport?
I think they have every right. If they have federal authority to do that. It's just that if they were expecting to get a police escort to sort of help them out, they're not necessarily going to get it.
Right. Okay.
So they got to just do their job. So to me, this is not a complicated thing.
And has it ever been tested at all? Do you know, since 1985?
I don't really know. I don't know, but I know that in this sort of talk radio driven, fake news website driven kind of world we live in.
People are turning in people that have been citizens, for God's sakes.
And
it's ridiculous.
Just as ridiculous as it is, and people used to saying, well, we're not going to bust somebody because they got a broken taillight and have them deported as a result. Okay, I agree with that. Yeah. But on the other hand, there's all this nonsense of saying because one person who did not have legal status here committed a crime in some state somewhere, therefore we have to bust everybody based on an isolated incident. And, if you sort of get the old Fox News view of the world, you sort of get that impression that, I can't get Fox News because I haven't got cable TV.
Fox News is on channel.
Well, there's the local affiliate. I'm just talking about bad.
Okay, bad stuff. You could if you went online, but who needs that, right?
So anyway, so they're going to have a roundtable at the city council meeting about this. I suspect.
Who do they invite for that? Because they usually invite people to talk on the issue, don't they?
I don't. Well, yeah, and remember, there's no public comment at roundtable meetings, so they'll have people from the police, they'll have people from various social service agencies.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be sort of an invitees, and
that's at 5:30, so in place of a regular meeting.
In place of a regular meeting on November 28th.
Okay.
Right. Which, by the way, is a meeting that oftentimes, as the meeting after Thanksgiving, has often been canceled in some past years.
Well, maybe that's why they made it a roundtable.
Yeah, maybe so. Is
it televised?
It is not televised. It could have been televised, but there was no city council order calling for it to be televised.
But it still could happen, because I know that happened, I think, at some other meeting.
I don't think it would be.
Oh.
And in fact, there may even be some good reasons not to televise it.
Oh, that's a good point.
And I appeal to those who feel like recording it anyway because you think you can, that if there are some people here who might want to speak freely because it's not being televised,
so don't.
Then maybe you shouldn't videotape that.
Thought about that.
So,
well, you can't videotape it if it's not going to be televised.
People do it.
How?
They bring the equipment into
Oh, they
the
actually
city
come into
council
the- oh my
chamber, and
goodness.
apparently under the open meeting law, they have a right to do so. But a little discretion would be
Okay, that's
appreciated.
a good thing to say. So I guess I'll have to go.
Yeah. So I don't know whether this is going to be just all symbolic, but
Yeah.
but there is a dollar figure associated with that, and if Cambridge is committed to doing certain
Right.
initiatives, and if the money goes away, there was part of an amended city council order last night at the city council meeting, basically asking the manager to commit to funding things that might be lost.
Who proposed that? Do you remember?
Well, I think it was a group. There were 4 counselors,
Okay.
and they'd forgotten to put in a clause. That
I
said
see.
That. So
Okay.
it was a substitution. They put it in.
I'd be curious at what the actual figure of what we do get federally.
I would like to get that, because right now I've just been hearing some pretty loose estimates, and I think
Sure.
we can do a lot better than
Yeah.
just loose estimates.
Okay, let's hopefully
know,
maybe by that night.
I mean, sad to say, if it really came down to the fact that there was a huge amount of federal money, there comes a point where, I don't know, you maybe have to at least, I don't know.
We'll figure it
It's a
out.
tough one.
Yeah.
So, anyway, city council meeting last night was kind of interesting. It was.
Did you stay for the end?
No, I was honestly, well, I'll just say it straight out. Some of the city council meetings of late have becoming a little too based on personal conflict amongst councilors, a little too much on the showmanship and a little too little on the substance. So in matters like there was, I guess it was appropriate that it was matched with the meeting on the sanctuary city status. Is there was a charter right item from the previous meeting. I think it was a previous meeting having to do with granting voting rights to non-citizens for municipal elections only. And this is, as Denise Simmons pointed out quite correctly, is an issue that's been coming up again and again since I remember back
the
when
90s, right?
Early 90s, I remember it being an issue. Back then, the issue was always, should we allow non-citizens who meet with green cards, I think it was, to vote in school committee elections, not city council. Only in the last term, so the 2014-2015 term, was that changed, I think, if I have this right, to just sort of say we want it to be for school committee and municipal elections. There's also this suggestion, that was as part of this order last night, which was that they want to get an opinion from the city solicitor,
Right.
that maybe it's possible to do this without seeking home rule legislation from the
Did
state
it
to
go,
allow it.
I got an understanding it had gone once to the state and they rejected it, or did not?
Every few years, a proposal like this and a home rule petition gets written, gets majority support. I don't remember whether it was, overwhelming majority support or whatever, gone to the state, and it's been rejected every time.
Do they say why? Because that's what Kelly brought up. He
They
said,
are
well,
not
why don't we
obliged
have the reasons why? And then someone said, we don't need the reasons why.
Well, what happened, I think I'm going to go along with Councilor Kelly on this one, in that what happened was there was an order at the previous meeting that called for sending the matter to the city solicitor, seeking an opinion on whether this could be done without a home rule petition.
Okay.
Councilor Mazin brought in text for a home rule petition and just amended it on the fly.
You're talking about at this meeting?
No, at the previous
at
meeting.
that one.
And that's what led to one
Okay, so what
councilor, I think it was Toomey's, exercised his charter right and said, well, you can't just fling that at us at a meeting and expect us to pass a home rule petition without any discussion.
Right.
So it was made subject to the charter right. So it came up at this last
But what happened to
meeting.
the whole city solicitor review thing?
Well, so now there were actually 2 items as part of this order. One is that they're going to go to the city solicitor seeking an opinion on whether this can be done without home rule petition, but they also last night just passed the home rule petition, sent to the legislature saying...
-1 vote.
Right, so saying just give us the right. Now, it was an interesting discussion, well, not interesting, it was a combative discussion where one councilor, I think it was, Councilor Kelly had some issues with it, wanted some further discussion.
And Councilor Chung.
Councilor Chung did as well, and then Councilor Mazin came back and said, you're stalling, you're being really personal.
Yeah.
And then
And
there was
Simmons
back
came in
and
and said,
forth.
"Let's not take
Denise
this
Simmons just sort of
person." Yeah.
laid down the law and
Yeah.
says, I'm cutting off discussion. And then they said, no, you can't do that. And, it's an interesting trend. I'm just going to say
Right.
it. There's been a trend where in the city where we like to deliberate, maybe a little too much public process sometimes, there seems to be a trend away from public process, or just let's do it because I say it and we don't want to have any discussion, and that's that.
Well, I'm still confused though. What the final vote I thought was 8-1, but that doesn't make sense because Toomey, I know he wanted to end debate, and that
Right.
was that the 8-1 vote. But how did the home
something
rule
like that.
petition thing get passed?
It just got passed because
But how many passed it?
I think it was a 7-2 vote.
So it was 2.
Yeah, I think so.
You don't know who the 2 was.
I didn't
It's got to be Kelly. But
Yeah,
maybe.
we'll find out. But to me, this was a matter, the numbers maybe are a little wrong, but they said, well, there are 30,000 residents of Cambridge
But 18,000.
who are non-citizens, 18,000 of which could be then granted the right to vote, which is interesting because we have about 18,000 people voting in municipal elections.
Yes, I don't
currently.
know where these figures are coming from.
I think a lot of them are just made up numbers. And the other thing too is that so somebody who just came here from another country, who happens to be a freshman at MIT,
Yeah.
so they will then, somehow
they would
it's
be-
really important that they get to write to
They
vote
could
in
be
municipal
courted
elections.
to register.
Well, I worry
I don't
about
like that.
a lot of this is really just going to be part of.
Well, I mean,
somebody's
as
election
I said to you
strategy.
before, I looked up a little bit. I didn't have a lot of time to see because they kept saying places across the country are doing this, and I only could find. Well,
It's not many.
there was 5 cities in Maryland. I don't know what's going on there, but on the November ballot in California, they had like a slew of ballot questions.
Yeah.
It did finally pass, but only for school board elections.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like that.
Yeah, no,
Because the parents have a stake in the schools.
I could be convinced about
Yes,
that.
but
You're
the
not
other
passing
one-
laws.
Exactly.
City councilors pass ordinances,
Right. So
and that is
that's
what
where I'm
citizenship
leaving
should
it.
be
So
about.
I guess the next step, we'll see what the city solicitor is going to get this.
Yeah, well, except the home rule petition goes on regardless. So
But still, all right. Well,
anyway, we've got a few seconds here, so we'll be back in a few
Okay.
seconds with
Just
more Cambridge Inside Out.
right.